If you've ever passed by a bureau on the side of the road and I wonder if we could actually fix that. Well, today you're in luck. We're going to talk about how to fix a bureau. It's actually incredibly simple, and a ton of these bureaus that you see could easily be saved with just a couple of parts, some hardware, and even some slides. Most of these are universal sizes. I'll leave a link for these two in the video description, but just make sure that you check your own bureau or the one you may be repairing. Make sure you get a proper fit. At the end of this video, the next time you see a bureau with drawers on top or multiple drawers on the side, you'll know just how quick and easy it is to fix these. This is the most common fault right here, and it's actually the top part of the slide. The part that attaches to the drawer itself breaks off. So what we're going to do is actually begin here, and we're just going to remove the 3 screws. There's 2 right here and 1 on the inside where you can't quite see unless I lift it, but 1 attaching this rail to the end. Just take those 3 out. Now I like to start these by hand, just so that we don't strip them. If you strip these screws, it's going to be a lot harder to take this apart. Most of the hardware that you'll buy will actually include screws within the package, so we can replace them. But again, you don't want to make yourself have a more difficult time when you go to remove them. Once you're sure they're nice and loose, then you can go ahead and use your power tool, and this will make the job quicker. Now, when you get the replacement parts, it's likely going to be attached at least to some degree. So keep in mind which way the drawer is going to open. If we're standing in front of the bureau, the drawer is going to open this way, which means that your new slide needs to work this way as well. This is going to be stuck together. Just as you would take the drawer out of the bureau, you'd actually take this and pull on it. Just be careful of your fingers because this is unattached and you may get your fingers caught. Once you remove this, keep in mind how you removed it. Now this is going to be towards the back of the drawer because that's what's going to attach to the front of the slide when going into the bureau. This particular drawer happens to have some wood glue, and that's going to prevent me from getting the new slide centered. It's important we get this centered, that way we can have smooth operation and the drawer doesn't go in crooked. So I'm just going to use a utility knife to remove that. Use more of a sawing motion or even a scrape, sometimes across the wood, rather than a pierce or a cut. And this is just to help alleviate damaging this board. If you damage this, you may have to do some additional repairs because this is actually going to hold everything within the drawer together. Now make sure that you're centered. You can carefully hold that in place, and then I like to start the next screw by hand as well. Now I'm not exactly lined up with the previous hole because this new slide is slightly different size, but you'll see that I don't need to drill anything. If you need to, you of course can use a drill, but this is pretty soft wood and most bureau drawers are. Now, since I'm using universal slides, the new one doesn't quite fit through this opening. This wood is actually soft enough that you can saw it with a utility knife if you don't have another tool. For the sake of time, I'm going to use a power tool. Double check to make sure that the opening now fits. Now you see how the slide operates. So all we need to do now is actually secure this into the bureau. One last thing to be mindful of is when you're using the universal slides, they may not mount in the same position that the original ones did. In this case, a screw actually goes through the board. I knew this would happen because I've done 2 drawers in this bureau before. I'm just going to grind this down. You could also put a piece of wood here, just in back of the drawer. That'll prevent anybody from kind of cutting themselves or getting caught on it, whether you have clothing in there and so forth. But grinding it down is going to solve that problem for me. Perfect. Now, clothing or even somebody's finger won't get caught in this, won't damage anything, be just fine. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bureau itself now. Typically, you'll have 2 screws again, one right here where you can see, and another one all the way in back. Personally, I find this a lot easier to flip the bureau up and rest it on something, but it actually makes capturing this on video a lot more difficult, so I'm going to do it like this. Same thing, I would definitely recommend starting these by hand, just to make sure you don't strip anything. Simply remove the old ones. I've had a few of these slides before where they actually getting on the screw or the head of the screw and back is rather difficult. It's actually angled rather than being straight up. You actually notice that it's angled back as if it's done before the back of the bureau is put on. You can remove the bureau or start taking it apart. Once you have the first one loosened, you can just kind of twist it around until that breaks and repair what you're left with after. If necessary, you can remove a drawer above or below, and that'll give you some more leverage to prying. And actually, this is going to give us a better look at what I'm talking about inside as well. So the head of this bolt actually cannot get on with typical screwdriver. You may be able to get on with something like this, excuse me, using the Phillips side, but not everybody's going to have something like that. So I just want to show other ways you can get this apart, but you can use a tool like this to bite and back and then actually unscrew this. So you see that I am making progress with that, but again, not everybody's going to have one of those. So just by removing a drawer, you can actually pull that screw up and out. And again, we'll remove any of this debris. And all that will be flush and nobody's even going to know once you put the drawer back in. If you're using a universal slide, you should be able to slide it in similar to this, and then you'll adjust the length that's needed for the drawer just by going like that. It doesn't matter which end you do first. Just make sure that the sliding part for the top part of it that is attached to the drawer that we already did is in the correct position so that the drawer will then go in and out properly. Now you don't need a drill for the lower slide either. You can go directly into the same hole in the front and in the back. Even though we pulled a screw out, you should find plenty of soft wood back there that you can just place a new screw slightly off center of where the old one was, and the slide will still work perfectly fine. At this point, all that's left is just to line up the new top slide with the new bottom slide, get it into the bearings here, and then slide it all the way back and check the operation. I often find it a little bit easier to push down on the drawer from inside of it and then kind of work it back in stages. That'll help catch into the setup a little bit easier. And again, just make sure your operation, everything closes flush, and you got yourself a new usable bureau.